What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to be talking about storylines heading into training camp for the NFC West. All that and much more coming your way right now. All right, Nick, as we creep closer to the start of training camp for most teams, we're taking a look at the NFC West, and I believe that there are few divisions in the history of the NFL that can resemble the amount of talent and the sheer competitiveness that we're going to see out of this division as the 2021 season unfolds. Let's take a look starting with the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers were subjected to a ton of injuries last year. They lost players left and right: George Kittle, Tevin Coleman, Jimmy Garoppolo, Richard Sherman, you name it, they probably got injured last year. Now with Fred Warner locked up on a 5-year massive contract, that the shift of the focus really turns to Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance. Who is going to start? Does Jimmy Garoppolo have a full leash? Is he ready to go? Is Trey Lance barking up his tree? How's this going to work in San Francisco?
I mean, honestly, when you look at everything the 49ers gave up to go and get Trey Lance, it's hard to believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the guy for the entire year. I think there's going to be a transition point at some point, but Jimmy Garoppolo's got to use training camp to push himself, to show to himself, to the team, that he is the guy they want day one, that he is QB1 for them right now. And that Trey Lance, his time will come, but it's not now. It's still Jimmy's time. And he's got to really hone in on his craft. He's got to let the noise go. It's similar to the situation in New England where Tom wasn't going anywhere, but he wanted to take over. He's got to understand that he's in Tom's role now. He's got the job, and he can't let it go. He's got to do everything he can to push off the guy who's trying to take his job. So training camp's really going to show us, is Jimmy up for the task, or is he going to fold under the pressure and Trey Lance is going to come in and take his job from him right from the get-go? I just think that Jimmy Garoppolo's got to get his mental right, and then everything will fall into place. But right now, Jimmy Garoppolo's got to prove to us all that he is still an NFL caliber quarterback, and he is ready to take control of this offense for the San Francisco 49ers.
This offense is in an interesting spot because the wide receivers are basically too deep. You have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, and then outside of them, it gets very scarce as to who you're going to be putting out there. George Kittle is obviously an insane weapon to have, and this running back core was once very strong, is starting to get a little thin. So I think that he's got a lot less to work with than when he went to the Super Bowl or even last year. Taking a look at what he has to prove, you're right. He has so much to show us that he has improved from his woes in the Super Bowl to being dependent on the offensive coordinator to coddle him and hold his hand through everything. I feel like Trey Lance is going to be able to come in and really just smoke him out of the water and really show what a real NFL style quarterback is going to play like. So Jimmy Garoppolo has to hold it down if he wants to keep his job. Otherwise, he may be on the trade block sooner rather than later. I think Trey Lance could easily kick him out of his role. All right, moving forward to the Arizona Cardinals, we take a look at yet another quarterback who, listen, he did not prove a lot last year. He showed us that there's still potential, but it needs to be unlocked. There's still a lot there for Kyler Murray to work on. And listen, I'm all for it. I love Kyler Murray. I'm a huge believer in what he can do, and I think he's going to show us a lot this year. But we need to see it in training camp. Is he improving his craft? Is he continuing to become a better on-the-field leader than he once was? Because, sure, he can make all the plays, and he had the play of the year last year in the Hail Murray, but at the end of the day, one play is not going to make an entire season. It is not going to be what you rest your hat on. And can he be a consistent winner? Because sure, you can beat the Buffalo Bills on a last second throw, but then you go to New England and get dominated by Cam Newton and the Patriots. It just, things didn't make sense. They were very inconsistent. So I want to see a lot more consistency, specifically with Kyler Murray. I want to see him being a more vocal leader on the field, and I want him to take more command of the offense. But I think he's going to be able to do that. Nick, what are your thoughts?
I think it's pretty well documented how I feel about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a guy who peaked in the NCAA, and ever since he came to the NFL, he just has not been the same player, especially with his time that he's had with DeAndre Hopkins. You would think he would flourish with a guy of that caliber in this offense Cliff Kingsbury has built. He's got so much talent around him, and I just don't think that he is at the level we all expect a number one overall pick to be at. Kyler Murray, with the addition of AJ Green and these wide receivers in the draft, I just don't think that it's going to make a difference. It's not going to be enough for him to improve his game. He's got to figure out another way of getting himself back on track. I just don't think we are going to see Kyler Murray get any better. It'll be interesting to see what he can do with this offseason with DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green and this offense. But even in training camp, we're not going to hear much from Kyler Murray. It's going to be more on the defense and J.J. Watt's addition to the team. Kyler Murray is going to be the one to let the defense do a lot of the work, and he'll get a lot of the glory for the wins they get. But Kyler Murray as a player is just not going to improve to the level we all want him to be at.
I can't wait to make a roster of players that you hate, because I'm winning fucking Super Bowls for years. Taking a look at the next team in the division, we have the Seattle Seahawks, and I believe that the storylines for them come down to one of two things. What is the bigger hole for this team? Is it the offensive line or is it the defense? Nick, I'll let you start. What do you think is the bigger hole for the Seahawks?
The biggest hole for them is their entire defense. When you look at this roster, you got Bobby Wagner in the middle of the field, and you've got a couple guys up front, but in that secondary, outside of Jamal Adams, there's nobody else. The corners are extremely porous. You don't have any outside linebackers. There are just too many holes for this team to be at the level they used to be at. This isn't a playoff team when you look at the entire roster. The offense can't just do everything. The defense has got to make some stops. I just don't think that there's enough edge pressure for the defense to get on the opposing quarterback, and the corners definitely won't be able to keep up with the opposing wide receivers. I just don't think that this is a defense that any team in the league has any fear in, and I believe that the Seattle defense is not going to improve this training camp. They're going to stay exactly how they are on paper. They're lackluster at best, and they're not going to be a great football team overall this season.
I mean, you talked about how bad the Seattle Seahawks defense is going to be, but I'll say that the Seattle Seahawks offensive line is going to be just as bad in their own right. I think that, listen, they got a little better. They made some very small improvements on the interior of this offensive line. But the fact remains that Russell Wilson is sacked on average 42 times per season. You are not winning Super Bowls when that is going to be the case. You need to figure out this offensive line. You need to go out and pay people money to protect the franchise quarterback. It's that simple. If you want Russell Wilson upright, making throws to DK Metcalf and to Tyler Lockett, and you want Chris Carson to have the holes that you need him to have to be a successful RB1 for your system, then you need to go get the dogs on this offensive line. You need to go get these guys, because, listen, even though that the defense can't stop anybody, if your quarterback doesn't have time to throw, then what do they need to stop people for? You can't put up points. So there's going to be a whole mess of issue. And if you give Russell Wilson just 3 seconds, the normal 3 seconds that we take for a quarterback, this man is going to win MVP 3 times over in one season. That's how good he's going to be, because we've seen what he can do when he's getting sacked 42 times a season. Now let's see what he can do when he actually has time. So if they can figure out a way to get David DeCastro in there, if they can figure out a way to get some of these tackles in there, let's beef up this offensive line with some talent and really get things popping, because right now this offensive line is just destined for another year of Russell Wilson running for his life. All right, with the final team that we have going here, news broke from the Los Angeles Rams that Cam Akers will not be part of the season, as he unfortunately went down with a torn Achilles, and it is very rough for the young running back, but he will get healthy, and I expect him to be back and better than ever moving forward. Now the question remains: where do the Rams go with after the Cam Akers injury? Do they bring in somebody else? Do they stick with what the running back group that they have? Personally, I think they have to bring somebody in. I don't think it necessarily needs to be through a trade or through free agency. Maybe they can wait and see what they can have. As Nick talked about in the video when we covered the injury itself, we can wait for cuts. We can wait for roster cutdowns and see who's available. But I believe that there are specific options like Todd Gurley, Adrian Peterson, Sony Michel, maybe Philip Lindsay in Houston. I think these guys are really big names to focus on, because outside of Darrell Henderson, there's not a lot to be happy about with this Rams running back room. And I'd be very interested to see what Darrell Henderson can do by himself. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that he needs a running mate. He needs somebody to offset him, because I just do not believe he is at the point in his career where he can be the bell cow for the Rams.
Where do the Rams go from here? I think they just turn to their passing attack. When you look at Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Deshaun Jackson, Tutu Atwell, you still got Tyler Higbee there as well. The passing attack for this team with Matthew Stafford at the helm is going to be ferocious. You don't need a running attack. You don't need at least a top tier running attack with this passing attack you have. Look at the Chiefs. They have top tier receiving weapons. Do they have top tier running backs? No, they don't. Darrell Henderson, CEH, might as well call him the same player. I think that if this offense is run properly, Matthew Stafford is going to have his way with the passing game. He is going to have an open target to throw to every single play. And Sean McVay is the offensive genius that we know him to be. He's going to put together specific plays each and every week that's going to get certain players open. Tutu Atwell and Deshaun Jackson, those are your speed guys. Robert Woods, he can run your end arounds and your short slants on the inside. Cooper Kupp, he can run your streaks on the outside as well. He can do everything. And then Tyler Higbee is going to run those seams. He's going to block for you as well. I just think there's so much in this passing attack that you're going to have an endless amount of plays and ideas that you can come up with for Matthew Stafford to work with, and you're not even going to be worried about the loss of Cam Akers. You're not going to be worried about how many rush yards your team has, because the passing attack is just going to be that strong.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams have an abundance of talent on the offensive side of the ball, and Matthew Stafford is somebody who is he's no stranger to being around talented players and unlocking that talent as well, i.e. Calvin Johnson, Megatron himself. So I think that there's a lot here for the Rams to rest their laurels on, and they should be able to, rest easy knowing that they still have a very touted offensive attack that's going to light up opposing defenses. But I do believe that they need to make some sort of adjustment, whether it's now or in the future, in this running back room. I think they need to replace Cam Akers with a 1-year rental somewhere along the line. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.